Hi, boys and girls. I'm Nana Rose. In honor of Thanksgiving, here is the first Thanksgiving. And you know what's really exciting this year? Is the Pilgrims came to America in 1620. It is 2020. That's exactly 400 years ago. So this is a big anniversary for our country. The First Thanksgiving by Linda Haywood, illustrated by James Waitling. This is a step into reading book, and there's a note to parents about new readers. Step into reading book, The First Thanksgiving. Pumpkin, some corn, a couple of people looking like they're reaping or sowing the foods. Probably reaping. Sowing is planting, reaping is harvesting. Plymouth, England, 1620. A ship is in the harbor taking on passengers. The people going aboard seem too poor and too ordinary to ever be famous, and yet their names are now in history books. Now, 400 years later, we still tell their story. These are the people we call the Pilgrims. They are about to set sail to a strange new land called America. They've been warned that Indians may attack them. Even the voyage will be dangerous. There may be pirates or hurricanes. Many a ship has sailed off and never been seen again. The Pilgrims are risking their lives. Why? Why would they get on a boat, go halfway across the world to a place that they knew nothing about? Very dangerous trip back then. Well, it started with the king. The king declared that everybody must belong to his religion. The Pilgrims wanted their own religion. They tried meeting in secret. But the king sent spies to watch their houses. He sent soldiers to arrest their leaders. Even their neighbors turned against them. So, the Pilgrims decided to leave England. Now at last they are on the ship. It will take them across the ocean, the Mayflower. Other people have joined them. Everyone hopes for a better life in America. They have they've given up their houses. They have had to say goodbye to their friends. They have said goodbye to England too. The Mayflower is on its way. Now, in this illustration, they've cut off the side of the ship. Now, you know that it would not have sailed across the ocean with the side of it cut away. This is so that we can see that the bottom is laden with all of the things that they needed. The supplies, the food, the water. The middle is where all the passengers are. And then up top would be the crew. Now, if you were actually in Plymouth, they have a replica of the Mayflower that you can go on, and it's small. It's very small. The ship is crowded. There are 102 passengers in all. Most of them must stay in one stuffy place below the deck. It's cold and damp. There's no water for washing, no toilet. Every day the Pilgrims eat the same meal: pickled beef, cheese, and dry, hard bread. Some of the bread is full of worms. Even the water tastes bad. There was no refrigeration. They couldn't save anything. They couldn't bake bread on the ship, so everything that they brought with them had to be stored and put in the ship before they left. So by the end of your trip, that'd be pretty stale food. Halfway across the ocean, the Mayflower is hit by terrible storms. Week after week, huge waves crash across the deck. It seems as if the small ship will break in two. Now, for those of you who like roller coasters, think about being on a roller coaster for weeks on end and not being able to get off. because the Mayflower would have ridden over top of a wave and then crashed down, and then ridden the next wave and crashed down. So it would have been like that for a long time. I think I would have been seasick. But the Mayflower is still afloat after 9 long weeks at sea. There's 4 weeks in a month, so that's over 2 months. One morning, a lookout spots a dark speck ahead. Land! What a thrilling sight. They have reached their new home. The ship gets closer. The Pilgrims see a sandy beach and many trees. America looks wild and strange. Is it safe? Are Indians hiding in the woods, in the forest? There's the lookout right there up in the crow's nest. And there's the crew and people on board. A search party goes ashore. The men walk along for miles and miles. Suddenly, they see Indians. But the Indians are frightened and run away. The men keep exploring. They find wonderful things. Corn, baskets, a spring. They take fresh water back to the ship. How sweet it tastes. This is being told from the Pilgrims' point of view. Imagine what it would be like from the indigenous peoples who lived here already. These strange people come onto their land. You don't know who they are, what they look like. And it says that they find corn in baskets. Whose corn in baskets do you think those are? Now the Pilgrims must choose a good place to live, a place with a harbor and fresh water and fields for planting. At last they find the perfect spot. Here a brook flows into the harbor. A big rock marks the landing. They will call this place New Plymouth. Remember, they left Plymouth, England, and they landed in what is now called Plymouth, Massachusetts. And here you have a Native American looking down, wondering who these strange people are. Remember, they were here first. The big Pilgrims begin a new life in a new land. There is so much to do. They must build houses before they can leave the ship. But it's winter. Bad weather slows them down. It takes weeks to finish just one house. And there is hardly enough to eat. The Pilgrims survive on food from the ship, roots, wild birds, and shellfish. How they wish for a dish of pudding and a slice of beef. When they arrived, it was late in the summer and beginning of fall. And there was something that I read where the ship that, the small ship that left from the Mayflower to go look around, that it was sleeting. Sleet is halfway between rain and snow, and it was stuck on their clothes, and it said that they looked like they were wearing glass. Think of how cold and raw and wet that would be. On a nearby hill, the Pilgrims make a platform for their cannons. They know the Indians are watching them. They can see smoke from their campfires. They can hear them in the woods. A guard is posted day and night. I think both sides are a little frightened of the other. How hard that first winter is. Every day is bleak and cold. Fierce icy winds rip through the settlement. Freezing rain falls for hours. The Pilgrims huddle together by their fires. They feel miserable and so alone. Here we are, 400 years later. It's 2020. COVID has hit, and a lot of people right now are feeling miserable and so alone this Thanksgiving. Well, a lot's changed, huh? Almost everyone gets sick. Many people die. The small Pilgrim band gets smaller and smaller. By the end of winter, only half the Pilgrims are still alive. Remember, they started with 102. That means they've got about 50 people left. The Pilgrims buried the dead at night in secret graves. The Indians must not know how few Pilgrims are left and how weak those few are. The long, sad winter passes, and spring arrives. Indians are sighted nearby. They come closer and closer, and then one day an Indian walks right into the settlement. The children are terrified, but the Indian smiles and says, "Welcome." His name is Samoset. He speaks English. He learned it from sea captains. The pilgrims ask Samoset many questions. They give him presents. They want to trust the friendly Indian. Samoset comes back with an Indian named Squanto. Squanto speaks even better English. He likes the pilgrims and he decides to live with them. He shows them how to survive in the wilderness, how to hunt for deer, and where to find berries and herbs. He also shows them how to plant corn the Indian way. The Indians put fish in the ground, and they plant their seed. The fish makes the soil richer. He also taught them how to plant the three sisters. The three sisters were three crops that grew well together: corn, beans, and squash. Corn grows straight up. It has a very straight stalk. The beans then can wrap around the corn, pole beans, and then the squash grows right and left close to the ground. And the three sisters do well together because the corn supports the bean plants, and then the squash, which is low to the ground, keeps away the weeds. And also, each of those crops adds and takes from the soil different things. So together they do really well. We think of traditional farming now as being planting one crop, like you'll see a huge field of corn or soybeans. But back then they planted three things together, the three sisters. The pilgrims want to make friends with all their Indian neighbors. Squanto and Samoset tell them about an Indian king called Massasoit. He is great and a wise leader. Massasoit comes to visit Plymouth. The pilgrim governor bows and kisses the Indian king's hand. Massasoit bows and kisses the governor's hand. Then they talk together. A treaty is made. The pilgrims and Indians will not harm each other. They will live in peace. The Indian leader draws his sign, and the governor writes his name. The treaty is kept for 54 years. In April, the Mayflower sails back to England. The pilgrims are sad to see it leave, but not one of them leaves with it. They all want to stay in America. The pilgrims work hard all summer. In the fall, the fields are full of good things to eat. It is a time of plenty for the pilgrims. Oh, how thankful they are. They have food and shelter and new friends, the Indians. The pilgrims decide to invite the Indians to a Thanksgiving feast. Massasoit promises to come. What a surprise! Massasoit arrives with 90 Indians. The pilgrims are worried. How can they feed so many people? But Massasoit knows what to do. He sends some men into the forest and they come back with 5 deer. Now there's enough for everyone. The oldest pilgrim says a prayer of thanks. Then the feast begins. Everyone eats so much. Turkey, lobster, goose, deer meat, onions, pumpkins, cornbread, berries. In that part of Massachusetts, cranberries grow, as well as blueberries. And that's the time of year when you can harvest them. The feast lasts for 3 days. People eat and sleep and then eat again. The Indians do special dances. The pilgrim men run races. They have shooting matches. The children play games like tag and blind man's buff. Everyone has a wonderful time. As the years go by, more people from England come to America. The little town of Plymouth grows bigger and bigger. The children of the pilgrims grow up and have children of their own, and they have harvest feasts too. In Plymouth, There's a living history museum called Plymouth Plantation, and it looks just like this. They set it up to be a duplicate of the original colony. In 1863, Abraham Lincoln, the President of the United States of America, makes Thanksgiving Day a national holiday. The first Thanksgiving is never forgotten. And although Thanksgiving in 2020 may look a little different, your table might be a little bit smaller with fewer people at it, we still remember to be thankful. No matter whether it's pilgrims and indigenous peoples being thankful, you, me, we all have something to be thankful for. Even in this tough year, think about what that might be. And today, be thankful for something and have fun.